All right, welcome back to another After Dark, everyone. Hope you all had a good day. Hope you enjoyed that video from earlier today. As promised, we are following it up with Clayton Crowley, and this is making the case for Michael Jordan. So this is going to be Clayton making the case for Michael Jordan being the GOAT. And as you guys know, Michael Jordan is my GOAT. So this one is... I'm probably going to pause the video a lot less than I did in the LeBron one because I had a lot to say about it. But this one, it's probably going to be right in line with my overall thinking. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that one earlier. I did enjoy it, even though obviously I disagree with a lot of what he did in order to make that case. But, you know, I respect that he did as much research as he did, and he did such a good job presenting it. So I'm excited how he's going to present the case for somebody like Michael Jordan, who, in my opinion, yeah, it should be pretty legit. Anyways, everybody, I'm going to link the original video down below if you want to watch. If you want to watch it without my commentary, go right ahead. Clayton's got a great YouTube channel, great content, and I'm going to be covering more of his. I also did the that Dr. J documentary. That was also Clayton, so he does great work. All right, everybody, please leave this video a like real quick if you wouldn't mind. It helps the video out a lot. And yeah, I appreciate y'all. All right, kick back, relax, grab a drink, grab some snacks. Let's do this.
Basketball is special. The size of the court and the lack of pads or helmets give fans the most intimate experience of a team sport that exists. And because of the different styles that basketball allows for, players develop their own distinct identities and signature styles through their creativity,
They used to.
flair, and athleticism. And although no player succeeds alone, the scoring volume and two-way nature of the sport give individual stars a nearly unprecedented amount of control over the flow and outcome of a game. For this reason, players are constantly compared to their peers and to the legends of the past in order to answer the most hotly contested question in the sport: who's the greatest to ever do it? For many, the question is redundant. They believe in only one right answer: their answer. Others might have their own personal stance, but acknowledge one or two alternatives. But I believe that there's much more nuance to the question of greatness and more answers to it than you might think. By my count, there are 8 players in NBA history that have a substantial claim as the GOAT. It's a subjective thing though. I can't give you a definitive answer. All I can do is make the argument. So today, I'll be making the case for Michael Jordan as the greatest basketball player of all time.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
Well, what can I say? What on earth can I say about Michael Jordan's case as the greatest basketball player to ever live that hasn't been said before? What do you think I'm going to talk about that didn't get covered in the 10-hour documentary that premiered at a time when there was no other sports content? There's no forgotten game that I can tell you about that shows just how good Jordan was. We've all seen those games. Every possible angle of the Michael Jordan case has been dissected inside and out. There are no original takes when it comes to the subject. Michael Jordan is a ubiquitous figure in large part because he was and is a brand. And what do American advertisers love more than a good brand? The good people at McDonald's, Nike, Gatorade, and the NBA itself succeeded in making sure that damn near everyone in the world knew that Michael Jordan played in the NBA and that he was a winner. I mean, honestly, when you see the number 23 anywhere, don't you immediately think of Michael Jordan? I mean, even if you're a LeBron fan, you have to admit that that is Michael Jordan's number.
They absolutely better admit it, because he's the OG 23, man.
And the craziest part about the Jordan experience is that as he became a global icon, he did nothing but continue to deliver the goods. What iconic moment can I show you that you haven't already seen 100 times?
Yeah, he's the rare case where the more pressure he was under, the more scrutiny he was under, the better he played. I mean, talk about like clutch or being able to perform under pressure. He really rose up to that occasion every single day.
His cradle dunk in college, The game winner in the 82 NCAA championship. The free throw line dunk. Pouring in a record 63 points against the 86 Celtics. The shot.
I like how this gets zero context. Hold up.
Free throw line dunk. Pouring in a record 63 points against the 86.
It gets zero context. Second year player, and he spent his whole second year injured, and he was supposed to be out for the entire season, but he comes back at the end of the year, and then he does this. Like, against one of, if not the greatest team of all time with that Boston Celtics 86 team.
Celtics. The shot.
Shot
The
out Elo.
spectacular move. The
By
shrug.
Michael Jordan.
The double nickel against the Knicks.
Yeah, I love that.
The flu game. Passing to Steve Kerr for championship number 5. These are sequences and moments burned into every basketball fan's consciousness. Every one of those moments served to propel Jordan higher and higher in the cultural zeitgeist until he was one of, maybe, the 5 most famous human beings on the planet. And yet, the inevitable passage of time has eroded the consensus around Jordan's GOAT status, especially with younger people who might not have been alive to see him play. That's not to say that there aren't young people who don't see him as the GOAT, but it's not as airtight as it once was. Now, I'd hate to speculate on behalf of an entire generation of basketball fans, but here I go anyway. I was 516 days old when Michael Jordan won his last championship.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember much about it. And I think that people who didn't live through Jordan's prime are a little tired of hearing how great he was.
Wow. So, yeah, Clayton is way younger than me. Whoa, okay. I was born in 82 for context. So I got to see his entire career. But wow. Yeah. I had a thought and I lost it. Let's keep going.
Of course, people want to be alive to see greatness. They want to be able to say, I saw the best ever. Now, I don't think that makes it right, but it's part of the explanation. The other part is that Jordan's celebrity seems to cloud everything he did. At times, it feels almost like propaganda. How many times have you seen this? Some basketball account on Twitter or somewhere on the internet celebrates the anniversary of something that, say, Wilt Chamberlain did. And in the comments, somebody says something like, Wilt Chamberlain, the most dominant player I ever saw. And then someone comes back unfailingly and says, in all caps, did you never see Michael Jordan play? It's not just that you have to acknowledge Jordan as the GOAT. It's that you cannot talk about the merits of anyone else's case.
That's not true. Actually, I grew up with a lot of Jordan haters because we're in Arizona here. I loved MJ. He was my favorite player, but he ripped the hearts out of our sons in '93. So we had a lot of Jordan haters out here. Every single one of them that I've talked to now, they hands down, they're just going, no, MJ was obviously the GOAT. I just hated him, back then, but he's obviously the greatest player we've ever seen. I don't see a lot of people bashing other players that are Jordan fans. We just bash LeBron James. Let's just be real. I don't even want to bullshit with it. We bash the LeBron James camp because they keep attacking the Jordan camp. So it's become this stupid battle. I don't know. I've never met a Jordan fan who disrespects Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Kareem, Wilt, Russell, even Tim Duncan or Kobe. Like, we don't do that. We don't do that. That's coming from the LeBron camp. But that's not our nature. We celebrate greatness. And we just happen to be under the opinion that Jordan is the greatest of them all. However, we don't need to diminish anybody else's achievements in order to prove that. Jordan did it by himself. So there's not much of that. We don't have to punch down on anybody to make Jordan look better. He took care of all of it himself. So, yeah, I stand by that one.
The internet would have you believe that Michael Jordan won every game he played and made every shot he took. And that kind of talk breeds resentment from people who want to appreciate other players' accomplishments. Because he wasn't perfect. He didn't win every game. He didn't make every shot. And you can have a debate about who the greatest of all time is.
I've also never heard a Jordan fan make any of those claims. He made every shot. He never lost. No, we actually celebrate the fact that he lost to Detroit multiple years in the playoffs. They beat the shit out of him, you know, but he lost multiple times. That's what made it so sweet when he rose up and climbed the mountain and beat them and then won a championship over Magic and then won 2 more after that. That's what's so special about it. We acknowledge that he was losing. That's why it's so cool that he won. But yeah, we say 6-0, but we're just talking about the finals in there. 6-0 in the finals doesn't mean he never lost. That means he never lost in the finals. Yes, it does. That is accurate. But it doesn't mean he never lost in the playoffs. There's not a Jordan fan out there that does that. That would be stupid.
Clayton, what the heck, dude? I thought this was supposed to be a video about why he is the GOAT. It is. All of that is just to say that that's how this is going to go. I'm not going to try to convince you that he was perfect. Because if you can separate the legend and the basketball player, it's more than enough. Oh, and by the way, we're going to ignore his Wizards career as much as we can.
Why? Why? That's an awesome part of his legacy.
Just the right thing to do. So, Michael Jordan, the basketball player. What do we have? In 13 seasons with the Chicago Bulls.
If we do that, then that means we should just ignore LeBron's Lakers tenure. You know, similar ages. So if we're gonna do that, then LeBron was 3-7 then, and was 3-7, 3-6 in the finals, and that's how it ends. I don't agree with that at all. Just because Jordan didn't win a championship those final 2 years doesn't mean we erase them. It has its own story to it.
Michael Jordan was a 6-time champion, 6-time finals MVP, 5-time regular season MVP, a 12-time All-Star, was selected to 10 first-team All-NBAs, made second-team All-NBA in his rookie season, was the Defensive Player of the Year in 1988, had 9 All-Defensive first-team selections, was a 10-time scoring leader, and in college won the 1982 NCAA Championship and was named the 1984 NCAA Player of the Year. Without a word of analysis or commentary, that resume is screaming about one of the most decorated and successful basketball players in history.
Yeah, the guy's literally 9-0 in championship situations. 9-0. Because you got 6 in the NBA. You got 2 in the Olympics, gold medal games, and you got 1 in the NCAA. He literally is undefeated in the finals. That one I stand by. In championship situations. Undefeated in that. Not undefeated in the playoffs. Obviously lost regular season games too.
Jordan's case is related to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's in that you can pick from just about any criteria you want to, and you'll find enough evidence to support his reputation. First and foremost, Jordan might well be the greatest scorer in basketball history. Ignoring his 2 years with the Wizards, Jordan's scoring average was 31.5 points per game. Michael Jordan in a Bulls jersey scored more points on an average night than any other player ever. Including his Wizards tenure, he averaged 30.12 points per game, still the highest of any player ever, beating out Wilt Chamberlain by a few decimal places. The style of Jordan's play was only matched by the substance of his game. Every ounce of athleticism that brought comparisons to Dr. J was matched by footwork that could only be seen in players like Hakeem Olajuwon. His acrobatic layups are underscored by his unerring technique and diligence that make him a case study in fundamentals. At his peak...
Okay, real quick, just because we've talked about it multiple times now,
Hakeem Olajuwon. His acrobatic layups are underscored by his unerring technique and diligence.
Okay, it turns out this is in multiple games. So all of you who said Bulls versus Blazers, you're right. All those who said like Lakers versus Celtics, you're right. It turns out we were all right. And apparently there's a different rendition of this in the USA basketball game, which I didn't get much experience playing, unfortunately. So I really want to check that out on an emulator or something. But it turns out it was in multiple games, and that's why so many of us know about this move. I don't. What I don't know is if it ever made it to any of the NBA Live games. But I'm telling you, one of these days I'm going to fire up like a Super Nintendo emulator and just record it and just like go through it with you guys. I don't know. Is that a crazy idea? I think I have the know-how to do it.
And make him a case study in fundamentals. At his peak, he tortured guards in the post, eluded big men with his electric first step, developed into the best mid-range scorer of all time, and ran Phil Jackson's triangle for all it was worth. He had nearly every offensive facet of the game in his toolbox, and he pulled out that toolbox every night.
Yep.
He has the highest usage rate of all time, scoring in volume on a nightly basis. But he also pushes advanced metrics and efficiency stats to their breaking points. He has the highest player efficiency ranking ever, the highest offensive box plus minus ever, the 5th most win shares, the most win shares per 48 minutes, an outstanding true shooting percentage, and so on. It is unfathomable to me that Jordan combined such unprecedented volume with such pristine efficiency. His opponents were allowed little reprieve on the other end of the floor.
Yeah, real quick. When we're talking about offense, that's what separates him from like Allen Iverson, Kobe Bryant, those kind of guys. The efficiency, the shooting percentage for Jordan, even after his 2 Wizards years, I believe was like 49.9. But his entire career, he was shooting over 50% until those final 2 seasons. So yeah, when we go to Kobe and AI, that's when we start seeing 40s. Like honestly, a lot of seasons in the low 40s as well. So that is a big difference. But hands down, basketball is a two-way sport. You need to play offense and defense, and the greatest of all time needs to be the greatest two-way player. That's why he wins it, and that's why I don't even have LeBron in contention. And yeah, I'm talking about LeBron because this is like response to the video earlier today, which was LeBron James, making the case for him being the GOAT. He is not that two-way player.
As Jordan quickly developed into one of the league's premier defenders. In 1988, Jordan led the league in scoring with 35 points a game, won the MVP, and was named Defensive Player of the Year after leading the league in steals.
And I think that year he shot like 55%.
Jordan defended opponents like a shark smelling blood. He forced bad passes, contested shots, leapt passing lanes, all while talking enough trash to sell a pay-per-view fight. There might not have ever been a more nightmarish matchup on both ends of the floor. He could go into games, tell his own team to stay out of the way, dunk on his defender, and then put that guy in a straitjacket the second he crossed half court. And yet, despite the ungodly amount of energy that he must have expended every night, Jordan was one of the most durable and consistent players of his generation. Aside from his injury-shortened 86 season and his mid-season comeback in 95, Jordan never missed more than 4 games in a single season. In 8 of his Chicago seasons, he played all 82 games. Season and his mid-season players of his generation. Aside from his injury-shortened 86 season and his mid-season comeback in 95, Jordan never missed more than 4 games in a single season.
That's insane. That's insane right there. So, one was a season-ending injury, and he even came back to play that. That's where that Boston Celtics 63-point thing happens in 86. So he wasn't even supposed to play at all that season. And then the next time you can say he didn't play all but at least 78 games was when he was retired and he came out of retirement at the end of the season. That's insane. That's not fair, though. You could say that in his first season with the Wizards as well, because he had a season-ending injury that needed surgery on his knee. So even then, you got 3 seasons and obviously good reasons why he didn't play at least 78 games. Even his final season as a 40-year-old, he played all 82. Unbelievable to me. You ever met somebody who shows up to work that often? I never did. I would love that employee.
In 8 of his Chicago seasons, he played all 82 games. The objective of a basketball game is to score more points than your opponent, right? So you'd love a player who can score a buttload of points. You'd also love a player who keeps the other team from scoring points.
Exactly.
When you put those two things together, the best scorer ever and one of the most tenacious defenders in history, you get Michael Jordan, whose peak reaches into uncharted airspace. Michael Jordan, at his best, was better than everyone. Plain and simple. He would score, defend, and play in such a way that made winning second nature.
Real quick, How many of you have actually seen this statue? I need to do it. I've never been to Illinois, and this is probably going to be my first stop if I get there. Have you guys seen it? Have you been there?
No one else has ever tasted the air at the top of peak Jordan. Once he got to the top of that mountain, he was looking down at everyone else. But what about before then? I hear the skeptics among you ask. And that's a fair point. He wasn't always that guy.
No,
before
he was building. They were growing. He was improving. The whole team was.
Bulls broke through in 91. Jordan suffered defeat in the playoffs to the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics, and most memorably, the Detroit Pistons. And I've seen this misconception that those losses all took place while Jordan was still basically on his own without Phil Jackson and Scottie Pippen. And that's obviously not correct. All 4 of the Piston losses took place while Scottie was on the team. And in 1990, Phil Jackson was the coach, and the Bulls won 55 games.
Yeah, they would have won if Scottie didn't have a migraine as well. I think that was going to be the breakout year. But even with that loss, they just came back even hungrier the next season and then swept them. They swept the Detroit Pistons right afterwards.
4 fewer than the Pistons. You can blame it on whatever. Injuries, the Pistons' patented Jordan rules, and even Jordan himself. It's a fair point of criticism to point out that Michael Jordan's Bulls lost in the playoffs early in his career. However, you can't stop the conversation there. Yeah, the Bulls got swept by the 86 Celtics, but come on.
It was his second season, and obviously, that was the greatest team of all time, and he just came out of injury. They weren't expected to do anything.
That team is pretty universally regarded as Bird's best team, and one of the best teams of all time after they went on to win the title. The fact that Jordan hung 63 on them, a record that still stands, is outstanding.
It is.
The 87 Celtics also made the finals. So did the 88 Pistons, and the 89 Pistons, and the 1990 Pistons. Of Jordan's 6 pre-title playoff losses, 5 of them made the NBA Finals, and 3 of them ended up winning the whole thing. They're losses nonetheless. But it wasn't like he was being beat by the Washington Generals.
Right.
He was losing and sharpening his teeth against the best, for whatever it's worth. And it's worth something. Speaking of Phil and Scottie, another point of contention with Jordan's claim to the throne is the fact that he played for the most decorated coach in basketball and with the best sidekick in sports.
Okay. I do. This argument's always interesting to me. Excuse me. Sorry. Coughed right into the microphone there. Phil Jackson was a rookie head coach when he took over the Chicago Bulls, when he took over for Doug Collins. Never coached an NBA game his entire life. Okay? So it's not like they inherited. You could say Shaq and Kobe inherited a 6-time championship coach. Yep, you could absolutely make that argument. That's fair. But at the point where Jordan received, I guess you can say, Phil Jackson as his head coach, this was basically the equivalent of Spo for Miami. Turned out to be a fantastic coach. Nobody knew he was what he was going to become. He was a rookie head coach. Okay, Scottie Pippen as well. Scottie Pippen, it's not like Dwayne Wade or something where like Scottie Pippen was drafted by the Bulls. So Jordan in practices created the Scottie Pippen that we know and love. You know what I mean? He molded him to be that perfect sidekick it worked out perfectly. But it's not like Scottie Pippen was out playing for Miami or something and he became a star, and then the Bulls got him. So then I was like, oh, Jordan inherited a star. No, he didn't. He helped craft a star, you know? Just like it would be very different for the Miami Heat Big Three if the Miami Heat drafted all 3 of them. So LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh were all drafted together, and they became great together. We wouldn't be saying, oh, you guys stacked a deck. Oh, you guys created a super team. No. Same way why we don't say the 2 championships that Golden State won without Kevin Durant. That was not a super team. That was homegrown. You know, so this Chicago Bulls team was completely homegrown. And it doesn't make any sense to me to say, oh, you guys had the best coach of all time. No, we didn't. We had a rookie coach. They had a rookie coach at that time. And Scottie Pippen, it's not like he was the number one draft pick, guys. Let's be real. He ended up being a lot greater than anybody thought he would be. And Jordan had a lot to do with that. And also Scottie Pippen in turn made Jordan better too. Because they played against each other on opposite teams in practice, and they had to guard each other.
Along with a team that did their jobs to a T and bought into the team. As for Scottie, there are some people out there who would have you believe that Scottie Pippen was...
Hold on.
Team. As for Scottie, there are some people out...
Where is it?
Out there.
I thought it was Skip.
Who would have you believe that Scottie Pippen was nothing more than a glorified role player. They'll say he didn't have the game to carry a team to a title, and he didn't have the aptitude to spend too much time in the spotlight. They'd have you believe that Scottie Pippen was nothing without Michael Jordan.
No, he would be a very good player, average to above average player. But he would be more similar to like LeBron James, where he's good at a little bit of everything. However, he needed a closer. He needed that guy. He needed a killer on his team. He was more of a facilitator. And comparing Scottie Pippen to Michael Jordan is the dumbest thing you could ever do. Just like comparing LeBron to Jordan is so stupid to me. Like, it makes zero sense. Not the same type of player whatsoever. That's what made Scottie such a good secondary guy. Because he's not going to take over the game and do all that stuff, but he's going to be working hard the entire time, doing little things that matter. Now, that means, he played 1.5 seasons without Michael Jordan on the Bulls, and by the second season, it all fell apart. Let's just be real. It all collapsed on his head the second season. He's just not built for this. He's not built for that kind of responsibility, and he's not built for being the man. After that, he went to Portland and he went to Houston, and he had a lot of problems. He had a lot of ego problems because he thought he was the man, but he just wasn't built for the job. I'm not trying to diss Scottie Pippen or disrespect him, but both camps are wrong in this. Scottie Pippen was not a scrub, and Scottie Pippen also is not one of the greatest players of all time. I'm sorry. He's somewhere in the middle. Okay? He was a very good basketball player. And if you're saying about like a Robin role, secondary role, one of the greatest secondary players, like on a 1-2 punch. So being the number 2 on a 1-2 punch, one of the greatest we've ever seen do that job. I'd have to say Kobe Bryant is probably the best I've ever seen because he supported Shaq in insane ways. All right. Rant is over.
It's ridiculous. You can disagree with me, but for my money, Scottie Pippen is the best perimeter defender imaginable. He combined size with uncanny court vision a la Bird and LeBron, knew exactly when to pick his spots and when to defer, and brought a component of selflessness and fraternity to the Bulls that might not have existed otherwise. He was approachable and likable, the counterbalance to Jordan's unyielding intensity. Yep. Most importantly, Scottie accepted and flourished in his role. The amount of credit that he deserves and does not get is unfortunate. Same with other players like Horace Grant and Tony Kukoc. Michael Jordan didn't win those championships alone, and those guys all deserve more recognition. When it comes to Phil Jackson, it's been fascinating to revisit Jordan's approach to the game and see how it changed under Jackson. Guys like Mike, Kobe, and Wilt all approached basketball in a similar way, in that they felt that the best chance their team had to win was for them to have the ball in their hands as much as possible. These days, we'd call what they did iso ball or hero ball. Isolate against the defender, tell everyone to get out of the way, and beat your man one-on-one.
Young MJ was like a better James Harden, but he also played the best defense you can imagine. But offensively, it was more comparable to James Harden than anybody else because he had the ball in his hands constantly, and he was playing iso ball. He was playing 1-on-5 out there. Let's be real, and putting up like 35, 37 points. Like it's no big deal. Phil Jackson and Tex Winter convinced him to play off the ball, so the ball moves around, everyone touches it, and you do way less work this way. You can still score just as about as many points. However, you're going to use a lot less energy by doing this. You're going to get injured less often, and you're going to be way more successful. And that's where Jordan's post game came into play, was because of the triangle offense. Brilliant strategy. But most people forget MJ didn't like Phil in the very beginning. He didn't like him. This wasn't his choice. And Phil was also a rookie coach. It didn't seem like a good move at the time, but it panned out. It worked out, obviously.
Watching Mike's early years, it sticks out painfully at times. Shooting over triple teams, refusing to give the ball up, even if a teammate had an open look. Kobe patterned his game after Jordan, and you can see the same tendencies. Wilt was, of course, a prolific scorer and record setter in his own right, and did so in a manner that gained him the reputation of being selfish. But with Jackson's philosophical influences...
I do this every time. One of my favorite blocks, if not my favorite.
Him the reputation of being selfish. But with Jackson's philosophical influences, the triangle offense, and a stellar supporting cast, Jordan learned to dial those tendencies back and perfect his game, resulting in one of the most dominant stretches any athlete has ever had in their sport. Of course, he still had the stuff to go and win his one-on-one battles, but he walked the line as well as anyone ever has. Kobe did the same thing. He won 3 championships with Shaq at the beginning of the decade of the aughts, and finished the decade with back-to-back championships. Now, who was Kobe's coach during those championship years? Who was it that helped him tailor his game to a more team-friendly approach, so as to unlock the group's championship potential? Oh yeah, it was Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson should, and does, get praise for managing some of the most eclectic locker rooms in basketball, satiating some of the most headstrong egos in the world, and providing an environment where the most talked about team with the most popular athlete could do their jobs. The Bulls' success might not have been what it was without Scottie Pippen. It might not have happened without Phil Jackson, and Horace Grant, and Tony Kukoc, and Steve Kerr, and Bill Cartwright, and all of those guys. Basketball is a team game after all. But it's our fault that they might not get talked about as much as they should. We are the people who talk about these kinds of things and create the dialogue that takes place about them. That doesn't somehow discredit what Jordan did for those teams or nullify what he contributed. Yeah, Scottie was a perfect sidekick. Yes, Phil Jackson was a masterful coach. Those things can still be true, and Michael Jordan can still be the greatest of all time. Scottie accepted his role on the team. He accepted that he was going to be the second guy. Jordan still had to go out there and do his job as the guy. He still had to set the tone of every practice and every game. He had to put the ball in the hole, share responsibilities guarding the other team's best player, take over when games started slipping out of hand, and, at the end of the game, take the last shot. It doesn't work unless Mike does what everyone expects him to, which is to be the best player in the world. As for Phil, yes, it is true that he tempered Michael's worst impulses. He helped sand off the rough edges and align the team. But Mike still had to accept that coaching.
Of course. And that's part of the job of a coach. That's a coach doing his job. And then MJ not being like LeBron in this case, because he went ahead and said, okay, coach, I'm going to trust you. And he did. And the rest of the team fell in line because of it. I can say Tim Duncan does the same, or did the same thing with Popovich. And that's why Popovich thanks him for allowing him to coach Duncan. You know, he thanked him publicly, said, thank you for letting me coach you the right way. Because if he was to do the LeBron James thing, then no matter what coach comes in with whatever play style that they're looking to implement, LeBron's just going to go, nope, we're doing a LeBron offense. This is the offense I like. So you could either get in line, coach, or I'm going to get you fired. Not the same thing. Think about it. He had Ty Lue. He had Ty Lue, and he just abandoned him, and it went to the Lakers. Not the same kind of dudes here. So yes, give Phil Jackson credit. However, just like we give Popovich credit and we give Pat Riley credit for what he did with Magic Johnson, yeah. But if the stars were not willing to get in line and rally behind the coach, support them, then it would have been all for nothing. And those coaches would have gotten fired, just like we've seen LeBron James get so many coaches fired. But they didn't do that, you know? They didn't do that. And MJ definitely didn't do that. He never badmouthed Phil. It was only in The Last Dance where we found out that he didn't like Phil in the beginning. He didn't like his philosophy in basketball. He didn't like that he was taking the ball out of his hands. All that stuff came out way later. He wasn't causing trouble trying to get him fired. If anything, he retired after the 6th championship because he said, if you fire my coach, Phil, I'm retiring. I'm out of here too, you know? But it still happened. So very different scenarios.
Had to adapt his game and do the work. Plus, isn't it a coach's job to
Damn
coach?
right.
Why is it a knock on Jordan that his coach was good at his job?
Yeah, we don't do that with Pat Riley. I don't get it. We don't do that to Magic Johnson and say, "Oh, you have Pat Riley. He's the one who started the Showtime Lakers, the run and gun." So, you need he created that offense based on Magic Johnson and said, "This is going to work." You know what I mean? If I have you doing that, this is going to work. Mike D'Antoni did that with Steve Nash as well. He didn't have that offense before Steve Nash came into town. But with Steve Nash, he said, holy shit, if the ball's in your hand, I've got the perfect idea. It didn't work, but it was very successful. It just didn't lead to championships. But if Nash would have won 6 championships in the run and gun offense, the 7 seconds or less offense, we wouldn't be saying, oh, well, you're really not that great because Mike D'Antoni came up with that. Yeah, that's the coach's freaking job, man.
Michael Jordan doesn't deserve all of the credit for their success.
And he doesn't take it all.
But he does deserve the lion's share of credit because he shouldered the lion's share of responsibility of such an incredible team. How incredible of a team were they? Well, the 1996 Chicago Bulls finished the regular season 72-10. That's more wins than anyone had ever won, and a record that most people thought would never be.
This is that Tim Hardaway? It's blurry. I think that's Tim Hardaway guarding Pippen right here.
That's more wins.
No, that can't be him.
Than anyone had ever won.
There's a smile, though.
And a record that most people thought would never be broken. And not only were they such a prolific regular season team, but they capped off that season with a championship to deliver the most successful season that any NBA team has ever had. Which brings us to another common Jordan barb. The fact that the NBA was, at the time, looking to capitalize on its enormous popularity and expand into more media markets. From 1988 to 1995, the league saw 6 new teams enter the league, and with each new team, the talent pool of the league got a little more diluted and a little more diluted.
Okay, this argument's interesting. Fun fact that nobody throws around, there are more NBA teams now than there were back then. So wouldn't that mean that now is the most diluted era of basketball? I'm just going to leave that there and keep going.
As far as I'm concerned, this is a perfectly valid point to bring up when discussing whether or not 72 wins validates the 1996 Bulls as the best basketball team of all time. I don't think it disqualifies them in the same way that I don't think that just taking 72 wins at face value automatically puts them at the top. But when people try to say that Michael Jordan played in a weak era or didn't face tough competition, it makes me want to pull my teeth out with pliers.
It's so stupid. It's such a dumb argument. Once the playoff starts, it's on. Those are the best teams in the league going head to head and the best players going head to head. So this expansion crap, it doesn't make any sense. And when I said about, now it's the most watered down, blah, 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 that's just in response. I don't actually believe that. I don't believe having more teams is like, it's watering it down like that. I never heard that argument before until the stupid clutch media started this kind of argument. I think it's dumb, especially because knowing that there's more teams now than there were back then in the 90s. So aren't you like kind of shooting yourself in your own foot there?
We know who Jordan was losing to, so who is he beating once his reign began? John Starks, Charles Oakley, and Patrick Ewing on the New York Knicks, the Bad Boy Pistons, Magic Johnson, Clyde Drexler, Dominique Wilkins, Charles Barkley, Alonzo Mourning, Larry Johnson, Tim Hardaway, Shaquille O'Neal, Penny Hardaway, Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, Chris Webber, John Stockton, Karl Malone, and Reggie Miller. Basically every relevant basketball player from the 1990s beside David Robinson and Hakeem Olajuwon. And no, I don't care to count up how many All-NBA opponents the Bulls saw versus someone else, or how many All-Star teammates Jordan had versus other players, or any of that. Because 1, the players on that list all passed the smell test of a competitive era with flying colors. 2, I don't care about that stuff. And 3, because, like I have said and will continue to say, everybody has advantages. Everybody. You become great by capitalizing on the moments when everything lines up for you. You seize the opportunity and press the advantage. So what if the Bulls were expected to win? They did win. And they were expected to win because Michael Jordan tipped the scales in their favor against everybody. And as a final objection, people who are looking to dethrone Jordan will tell you that he was an asshole to his teammates. That he alienated those who he didn't deem worthy or tough enough to play alongside him, and he refused to respect or trust them.
I like what Will Perdue says about it, and most people clip it out of context, because Will Perdue made a statement saying, yeah, Michael Jordan was an asshole. Yeah, he pushed the envelope, and yes, he took it too far sometimes. And most people just stop the clip right there. But then he continues to say, but as time went on, I realized what he was trying to achieve. And yeah, he was a hell of a teammate. Damn good teammate. You know, so people who wanted to win, they understood Jordan. Yeah, was he hard about it? Yeah, he wasn't being buddy-buddy like LeBron. And then when you're not looking, he's going to get you traded or badmouth you to the media and backstab you. He wasn't doing that. He was doing this in practice. MJ was doing this in practice, getting you tough in practice. So no matter what happens out there when you face the Knicks, or you face the Pistons, or you face the Heat, you're not going to back down from the fight. That's called preparation. It's just like in the Army, you know? Oh, the sergeant's a dick. Yeah, the sergeant is preparing you for war. Because if you can't handle the sergeant, what the hell are you going to do out there in open warfare? You're going to crumble. We can't have that. So... yeah, this argument's always silly to me.
That is a fact. He was an asshole. He punched multiple teammates in the face, belittled his peers for mishandling passes, and spoke to his teammates in a way that would not fly in 2020. It's a fact that feels especially stark when you take into account the impact that more reserved and compassionate leaders like Tim Duncan and Bill Russell had on their teams. It is possible to win in the NBA without being a jerk, but it's also possible to win while being a jerk. And remember, Jordan wasn't lashing out for no reason. He wasn't walking into the gym just looking for an ego boost and to demean someone while he took the day off. He wanted his teammates to work as hard as he did. He had to make them understand that the Bulls could not be playing games because they wanted to win.
Yeah, they lead by example. You see who's leading the charge on this drill? You'd think, you know, oh, Jordan at this point should probably be entitled because he's won 5 championships. No, look at him in practice.
He wanted his teammates to work as hard as he did. He had to make them understand that the Bulls could not be playing games because they wanted to win. They had to play as if they needed to win, because psychologically, Jordan did. Take Tim Duncan and compare him to Michael Jordan. You never hear about Tim Duncan really tearing into some dude in front of the whole team at practice. You never hear about Mike not taking the opportunity to chew out a teammate that could have done something better. They are polar opposites when it comes to how they led, but they were both leaders, and both of their styles worked. In the same way that not everybody could play for the Spurs, not everybody could play for the Bulls. If you couldn't handle the team first, no one is above the group approach that the Spurs culture built, you weren't playing with Tim Duncan. And if you couldn't handle getting called out, being pushed past your stress point, and playing without fear, you were not playing with Michael Jordan. They both shared a common vision of basketball perfection. They set a high standard and expected everyone around them to work as hard as they did at achieving that standard. If you didn't, you were out. So yeah, Michael wasn't nice. Not everyone could get along with him. If he had spent his years in the league making a villain out of himself and making enemies out of everyone else, toiling away in the postseason without ever breaking through, that would be one thing. But what he did worked. It produced results.
Absolutely.
And speaking of results, the guy won 6 effing rings. And he won all of them as the best player.
Yeah, we can compare coaching styles too. Phil was much more hands-off. And because of that, Jordan had to step into that role to kind of be bad cop. Now, if you go to the example he was using, San Antonio and Popovich was way more hands-on. So it wasn't Tim Duncan who had to do the on-the-court coaching. It was Popovich. And Popovich would get in your face. He would say what he needed to say, and he would get your ass in line so you're ready for the playoffs. So that's the difference. Tim Duncan didn't have to do that because Popovich was a scary dude, man, And Phil Jackson was not a scary dude at all. You rarely see Phil raising his voice at anybody. That was Michael Jordan's duty. And then Scottie Pippen was like the ultimate good cop, where he was buddy-buddy with everybody. And, Phil was kind of in the middle there.
I know that the people who want to discredit Jordan have already found a million ways to get around 6 rings, but I don't buy any of them. It is literally the best claim that any player has to the throne. He won more championships as the best player on the team than anyone but Bill Russell. But Jordan did it with more teams and more variables that could have set the team back. He checks all of the boxes. He had more success than Wilt, had more statistical prestige than Russell, had a higher peak than Bird or Magic, and leveraged that peak for more titles as the guy than Kareem. He was the ultimate closer. He lived for the moments that decide games. As an individual talent, he is an A+, as special as you can get, as well-rounded as anyone ever. As a team athlete, his place in the game is immortalized. Listen, it's impossible to watch Michael Jordan and not romanticize him. No object in the world looks more natural than a basketball in Michael Jordan's hand.
I like that statement. That's I agree 100%. Because no matter what you say about LeBron, he looks clunky and clumsy out there. But MJ, and it's not just a rip on LeBron. I can say the same thing just off the top of my head because I'm looking at the screen. I can say the same thing about Scottie Pippen. He produced, but he looked a little clunky and clumsy out there. But then you got Jordan out there, and it just looks like art. It looks like a ballerina out there doing their routine.
It's like the ball was designed for him, or like he was made for the ball, or both. You can't appreciate Michael Jordan without hyperbole and superlatives. He is the avatar of sport. He is competition incarnate. His defining trait remains his insatiable need to win. He wanted to win at everything. When he came into the league, there were questions about his shooting and his defense. So he became a defensive player of the year and a mid-range marksman.
His shooting was what we were concerned with. We didn't know what kind of shooter he was going to turn out to be.
And his defense. So he became a defensive player of the year and a mid-range marksman. He heard he couldn't win for years. So he took it all out on his competition and led his teams to 2 separate three-peats.
Yeah.
He ironed out all of his flaws because he would accept no result but victory. So don't even start to tell me that he wouldn't have developed a three-point shot today.
Yeah,
And
go
more
watch
than
the
any-
92 finals. Obviously, he could do it when he wanted to. He just didn't want to get lazy. He's talked about it himself. He wanted to continue putting the pressure on the defense by attacking the paint.
Sport is an art form, isn't it? It's expression, it's theater, and it's storytelling. Part of sports is the excitement, the show. And Michael Jordan was the most dynamic show in the world during the end of the century. Part of it, too, is because the Jordan show wasn't terribly complicated. There wasn't a lot of baggage.
In his example, he was Taylor Swift for his entire career. Like how Taylor Swift is now the hottest ticket on the market.
attached to the Michael Jordan experience. The things that he did made people believe, if only for a few moments, in superheroes.
Yeah.
When spectators looked at him, hoping to find something to connect with, they found the indomitability of human will. The old sports cliche fully realized
Doc
that
Rivers.
the game is won by the team who wants it more. And we all like to think of ourselves like that we are wired like Jordan. But let's face it, we're not all like that. That's what made him special. There's only one Michael Jordan. As for the story, how's this? There's a guy who is knocking on the door of the Pantheon. He has been for
Ball from Karl Malone, and before that, he had a layup as well. He did it all at the end, man. Well. Yeah. Obviously, this changes nothing for me. This just, it adds fuel to the fire for me. Great video. Another great video. So, yeah, Clayton Crowley, you're pretty awesome, man. You make some great content. I don't really have anything to say at the end here because everything I needed to say, I was kind of doing it in real time. Yeah, MJ's the damn GOAT, man. I don't know what else to say. And it's not just because of the 6 rings. It's because he was the best player out there. You take in what he's doing offensively and defensively and combine them. He's the best guy on the floor every single day. And like I said about the LeBron James thing, in order to be the greatest of all time, first you need to dominate your era, be the greatest of your era. LeBron never did it. Jordan in the 80s, he didn't do it either. He was the most talented basketball player in the 80s, and we've never seen anybody like him or since. We've never seen anything close to 80s Michael Jordan, but he wasn't winning. He wasn't dominating yet. But in the entire 90s, winning six championships in the 90s, so 6 out of the 10 years that you can possibly do it. Yeah, he dominated his era. So he checks that box, so he gets to go on against all the other greats. And if you just try and figure out who is the best basketball player out of these greats now, yeah, for me it's Michael Jordan. It is. I think he would destroy anybody in a one-on-one situation when it comes down to it. So he was the best, the best on a team situation, and he's the best in a one-on-one situation. Therefore, he's the best basketball player ever to play the game, in my opinion. The GOAT, the greatest of all time. Nothing else needs to be said. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. I know this was 2 long ones today. Honestly, my voice is starting to give out on me from doing 2 long ones like this. So, yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys for watching. Yeah, 2 really cool videos today, and I will be doing more stuff from Clayton Crowley because I really enjoy this content. All right, everybody, I'm out of here. Yeah, have a wonderful night. Thanks for watching. Please leave the video a like if you enjoy it. Check out Clayton's channel if you enjoy his content. Subscribe to my channel if you want more content like this. And hit that bell notification if you want to be notified the next time I post, which will be tomorrow morning. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful night. Be safe. Don't talk as much as I did because then your voice is going to start going out. All right. Be good to your people. All right. Love your loved ones. All right. Good night, everyone.